So this topic is at least like a couple weeks old now, but there's still more recent videos of people sort of talking about this planned trend, if that makes sense. Anyway, to break it down in simple terms, people are trying to plan the next sort of print trend in fashion, and by that I mean what print is going to be popular. So, take for example this year where cheetah or jaguar print was popularized, it was put on everything, that type of thing, and what to sensationalize next year. And people started bringing up dragon print. And obviously the very big issues regarding dragon print is it's not Western dragons, right? It is cultural dragons, specifically Chinese dragons. And obviously there's a lot of discourse regarding it, a lot of pushback considering some of the images used for this concept, trend, whatever. So very split stuff and a lot of cultural appropriation. And it's brought up the sort of question on what differentiates appreciation and appropriation. So let's kind of dive into that. So, cultural dragons, as we speak of them, are very different from Western dragons and also have a very different representation within history, right? So if we look back a little bit, vaguely, this is very, very paraphrased. Dragons historically were used as a symbol of power or prevalence in empires when there were still empires, and have kind of nowadays been used more as a cultural symbol as a whole, right? So for this sort of imagery to be used specifically is already a little bit strange, a little bit off, and, you know, using a bunch of other traditional clothing and over-sexualized versions of these clothings, might I add, is also a little bit off. And let's look at some of the basic definitions of cultural appropriation to kind of like give you guys a sense of what I mean by here. Cultural appropriation is the adoption of an element or elements of one culture or identity by members of another culture or identity in a matter of perceived inappropriate or unacknowledged manner. So, to break this down in easier to understand words, cultural appropriation is when something is pulled from another culture and is misinterpreted, over-sexualized, and permeates negative stereotypes. So, obviously, to be using over-sexualized versions of traditional clothing along with, you know, very prevalent parts of history and culture, and to kind of dwindle it down to, you know, and I hear this a lot, especially within the discourse about the dragon print. There's a lot of people saying, oh yeah, you know, this is appreciation, and, you know, dragons, they exist everywhere, and dragons are not specific to just, like, Chinese people or Asian people and whatnot. And while, yes, dragons are not specific to Chinese culture, the ones that you're using are derived from said culture. If you want to do a dragon print, you might as well go like the medieval route, I guess, in some cases, if you're going to go for a Western take on it. And again, not use sexualized versions of traditional clothing for the sake of your aesthetic, right? Western dragons, as a whole, are not really similar in some cases, especially when you look at the proportions, features, prevalence in history, and whatnot. Though there are some times when they do overlap, it's still a little bit weird. So obviously there's a lot of pushback, and people kind of going, we shouldn't be appropriating this type of thing, and whatnot. So I guess my thoughts on this is, again, there are some things that I think could be done tastefully, and if you are of the culture and are doing your own takes on this in a way that is fleshed out and properly done, or if you're not a part of the culture but still doing the proper research and whatnot, then, do as you like. But for the most part, as a general trend, do I think it would be nice? Maybe. Do I think it would be done distastefully, in stereotypical ways, and given the past rep of Sinophobia on the internet, it would not be done well. It would be done terribly. And I talk a little bit more about the growing Sinophobia on TikTok and on the internet as a whole in a past video, and I might link that one in the description. But given what we've seen this year and in the past few years, if we do proceed with this fashion trend, it will not go well. I do want to say that it is October, or at least at the time of recording, it is October. We still have 2-3 months to think of something that is not cultural appropriation or misinterpreting parts of another person's culture, and to do something else more tasteful, and that would be less difficult to misinterpret. It's just, let's not do this. This was not the take. And yeah, that's basically it. Again, I do think that things can be done tastefully, but with the state of the internet, this is not one of those things. This would not be done well. I would like to hear your thoughts on this. Obviously, I don't want to speak over anyone else, and if you have a differing opinion, I'd like to hear it. But yeah, that's basically it. Bye!